For nearly over a decade, the CW's Arrowverse have dominated the superhero television. They started strong, they connected to the DCEU, but something changed. So, let's talk about the rise and the fall of the DC CW universe. Hello everyone and welcome back to AustinPlus commentary, where today we are discussing the rise and fall of the Arrowverse, or the CW DC universe for those who are not familiar. But I basically grew up on this. I did a video about the DCEU not too long ago in September, but I thought we could maybe branch off of that and do something to do with the CW. Because why not? Now, this universe actually started in 2012 when things kicked off with the Arrow series, where it showed a much darker story than people were expecting for a character such as Green Arrow. Very much the Batman tones, but on a larger level. It was a far more grounded storyline, and as the show got better, more DC characters were introduced, such as Barry Allen, who went to make a name for himself in 2014 with the release of the Flash show. This expanded the universe with a far happier but still comic-accurate story, and The Flash was a bit more well-known than Arrow, and it drew more fans in, which is what people wanted in the first place. Because of the success of Flash and because of the success of CW, they wanted to introduce a lot more characters, like basically having a character expansion, if you will, and this is when a lot of the peak glory days, shall we say, happened for the DC CW. Now, a couple years later, when the season 2 of The Flash took place, the first collab between Arrow and Flash before the Flash show, because Barry Allen did make an appearance in Arrow before the Flash show happened, but the first collab as superheroes finally came. And once this had happened and introduced characters like Hawkgirl, Hawkman, Vandal Savage, I remember this all just off the top of my brain, more and more projects arose, such as Supergirl, Legends of Tomorrow, Batwoman, and Black Lightning. This is before Superman and Lois, which ended up doing very well. Now, this allowed for crossover events to be a lot larger and a lot bigger on a bigger scale, which did really well for these shows. And every year, or in a special episode such as Christmas, such as these yearly collaborations, there would be something to do with collabs. Now, with the likes of these characters, they would combine both mainstream and unknown characters like Martian Manhunter, Black Lightning, and Batwoman wasn't really well known, so they would introduce characters that weren't well known and then mix them with characters that were well known so they could perform. That was a peak idea.
Are you sure about that?
This also made it very balanced, and they did end up making it big. In CW, it was something on every weekly. Now, to put this in perspective, this was doing better than the DCEU. Now, don't get me wrong, that's not a hard thing to match up with.
Well, no fucking shit.
But it was doing so much better. Now, the decline pointing, I think, really began during. Now, for me, it started season 7 of The Flash. Now, there was too much going on for 22 episodes every single season of everything. And closer to the end, they would link up to the to what happened at the very beginning of the season, which by that point it forgot. Because if you remember, these come out every 2 weeks and may have breaks in between. So there's a whole year of content. You have to remember what happened 9 months ago. You're not gonna do that. Season 7 of The Flash, I think, was actually a pretty good breaking point, but they knew what they were doing was wrong. It was basically cut up into 3 points, or so they would have 7 episodes of one storyline, another 7 episodes of another, and I think the final 8 were linked somehow, or he had one sprinkled difference one in there. But it wasn't great. That sort of mix-up made sense, but you were essentially just doing mini seasons within one. Now, there was a lot more of other issues such as cast and crew turnover going on, so the quality dropped and all of the glory really just dwindled out. And year by year as well, the viewership went down drastically. From 2021 to 2022 is when it really hit a mountain, and this makes me wonder how it lasted for as long as it did. But I also think 2020 had something to do with that. Now, in terms of the final years of the CW, the final years were it was basically like watching cheese melt or paint dry. Pick one or the other. There was a lot of controversy with the Batwoman show and the production issues, and most people could tell that there was a lot of production issues with the change of cast members and the change of story very quickly. And the Flash later seasons were heavily criticized because they were just doing too much in a short span of time. And the rest just fell off right away, especially Legends of the Tomorrow. Now, first season of that was perfect. Just, I don't know where it went. It is unfortunate to see, but everything sometimes has to come to an end. Now, in terms of stuff that went well for the CW, I will give it credit where credit is due. Arrow season 1 to 4, The Flash season 1 to 3, then season 4 was just a horrendous show. Supergirl season 1 to 2, Legends of the Tomorrow season 1 to 2, Batwoman season 1 to 2, Superman and Lois, now that was peak, season 1 to 3. Now, in terms of what went wrong, I think for Superman and Lois, season 4 was where it went wrong because they rushed that. They rushed it so much because they told people beforehand that we were going to cancel it, but they needed to finish that story off, so season 4 was just rushed like that. Green Arrow from season 5 to 8 was very similar to the idea of watching paint dry because everyone was too invested in the Flash, and then Arrow was just kind of dwindled out, and that quality fell down pretty quickly. The Flash season 4 to 9, so they tried something different, and I get that. I get it. Season 4 was to do with the Thinker. They just did that storyline really badly. Then they had season 5 with Cicada. Again, a very different story, especially with Nora West Allen. Season 6 was all over the gaff. In season 7, Godspeed. By that point, I think it was just too late. Season 8, I do not remember. I cannot lie. Season 9, you had like Eddie Thawne come back or something, and then you had Red Savitar and everyone come back. That was painful to watch, but I see where they were going. Legends of Tomorrow season 3 and season 7, it just got really confusing, which timeline they were in, what they were actually doing. It just got really confusing. Batwoman season 3. Now, this annoyed me to the core. At the time of when I watched this, I loved it. I loved that they were bringing in OG characters for the Batman, like from the Batman show. Except they weren't OG, were they? They were just randos from the street, and then we're like, oh yeah, we'll give you the Killer Croc stuff. We'll make you a budget Poison Ivy, and then we'll like, oh my god, it was painful. Now, Black Lightning as well was another show that just didn't do well in general, which is the unfortunate truth, but it is what it is. The CW DC universe started with promise, but slowly it fizzled out. It wasn't perfect, but it gave us some unforgettable moments and will always stand as a bold experiment in a shared universe storytelling. That is for sure. But without further ado, everyone, that is the end of today's video. I do hope you all enjoyed it, and if you did, please leave a like and subscribe and comment what else you would like to see on the channel. But without further ado, hope you have an amazing day as always, and I'll see you all in the next one. Bye bye.
Yeah.